can we very briefly talk about a film that we walked out of, the first walkout of Berlinale, Survival of Kindness by Rolf, an Australian film, which opens with a this is one point I wanted to make actually about sound design. We made it earlier with reference to the Emily Atta film. If a film has like ostentatious sound design, there's the sound of someone cutting a cake and you have this squelching sound, you know pretty much that it's going to be kind of ideological in some way or dogmatic or heavy-handed, unless that cake itself holds huge like
so counterpoint, or not counterpoint, but example of that would be L'Argent, the bowl of hot chocolate that's spilled when it's being carried into the house. That's a great example of this eruptive sound design, of this sloshing of this cup of hot chocolate.
True, and I guess that would fit better into my sort of second acceptable case of ostentatious sound design, which is of course the poetic.
Yeah, the poetic, the meditative, the transcendent.
Yeah. So I don't sound like I'm sort of making up my theory as I go along. But yeah, Survival of Kindness is, by all accounts, including ours,
terrible,
a fucking awful ideological film, clearly made by a guilty white Australian. It stars
I'm heaps guilty.
He's heaps guilty about all the indigenous bad stuff. It's a black woman who's called in the cast Black Woman. She's stuck in a cage. She for days, day and night. She's stuck in this cage. She manages to get out of the cage. There's like this brief moment.
It's basically,
Owen got very upset when I invoked Bresson, but there's this brief, like, slightly homage to Bresson.
Get his name out of your mouth.
I know it doesn't. It's not to its credit at all that I invoke him, but it's just it's in the water. This brief moment where she kind of escapes, and then she just starts weeping.
People doing stuff isn't Bresson.
No, but often when people, I mean, I think it also is referring not to EO because that's come out very recently, but maybe to Ohasad Balthazar, this kind of like passive victim of society. May I just say, as a fan of Ohasad Balthazar, this is obviously a massive, crude of what that film achieves.
It's worth to unpack. So obviously, the distaste with a film like
The Survival of
Kindness is that it's an allegorical film, and film is already an abstraction from reality, and it adds another abstraction on top of the abstraction. And I think that it has a diluting effect when it thinks it's actually clarifying. And I think
it doesn't trust the power of cinema.
No, it doesn't. I mean, there are great allegorical films. They can be done. You take a film like Salo, but Salo is a fully procedural film.
Mm-hmm.
Its allegory is, you've got the
it's a film with humor as well.
Humor.
This does,
and also great and just amazing production design, and a very beautiful, very transcendent film, and a film which reeks of unpleasantness. Whereas this film is supposed to be doing that, but I think it's also I hated the Banksification of it, the kind of the fact that the white oppressors in the film are all wearing gas masks for some reason. So their voices
some
are
little
muted.
referred to dystopia in the distance,
like the kind of clangers bumbling around,
and the way in which we don't hear their voice is presumably meant to conjure the experience that slaves
disorientation
felt, hearing
of being
voices
the other.
they didn't understand, taking them away, moving
them
around.
But I think there's it really doesn't work. It was a stupid allegorical film that again reaches for profundity, but was just such an embarrassing kind of ideological kind of flare shot up in the midst of Potsdamer Platz. And I think I'm sure it just felt it felt like a student project, really.
I don't think it will do well, but I think it's worth emphasizing that it's a stupid and hollow film, and it's a grave
Deeply
embarrassment that anyone is taking it seriously.
But EO was an interesting film which has a similar kind of this a sort of a hero's journey, like a Rake's or Pilgrim's Progress. Featuring a subject, a subject who is subject to the violences, the arbitrary violences, whims of humanity. But I think again that film, EO by Skolimowski, is not perfect, but it's certainly a very interesting, a very good film, and does. Its allegory is not as direct because it's not telling you that it's allegorical.
Propaganda or anything.
Yeah, it's not telling you that it's allegory.
I don't love EO, but it's certainly distinguished from this.
Yeah, this pap.